My parents kicked me out of the house when I was pregnant and 6 years later. They demanded to be grandparents, but in prison, nobody will listen to their demands. I grew up in a house where everything revolved around following rules. My parents controlled everything. My dad was stricter than my mom, but they both made sure I always did what they wanted. I was always the quiet one in class. I barely spoke and preferred being alone. The only rule I ever broke was reading books my parents considered inappropriate. Normal novels everyone else could read. Literally, that was the only time I rebelled until I was 19. I met Nathan when I was 18, during my first semester of college. He was in his second year studying business. We started dating after meeting at a campus event. My parents didn't like me dating, but they grudgingly accepted it as long as I kept my grades up and followed their other rules. Nathan and I got serious quickly. He was the first person who truly listened to me. 6 months into our relationship, I missed my period. Although we used protection most of the time, we had some slip-ups. When the pregnancy test came back positive, I was terrified. Having a baby at 19 wasn't part of my plans, especially since I was still living with my parents and completely dependent on them to pay for college and everything else. I told Nathan first. We met at a coffee shop near campus and I handed him the test wrapped in a tissue. After staring at it for a minute, he asked what I wanted to do. Honestly, I didn't know. I thought about terminating the pregnancy because I knew how my parents would react, but I couldn't bring myself to say it out loud. Nathan told me he would support me no matter what I decided. Then he did something I didn't expect. He took my hand and asked me to marry him. It wasn't a romantic proposal, but I knew he meant it. Telling my parents was the hardest thing I've ever done. I waited until Sunday dinner when my older brother Eric was also there. I thought if more people were there, my parents wouldn't react so badly. Nope. That tactic didn't work. When I told them I was pregnant, everyone at the dinner table just stared at me with fury. I quickly told them that Nathan had proposed and we were planning on keeping the baby. Then my dad stood up and gave me an ultimatum. Either I fixed my mistake or I wouldn't be welcome in their home anymore. My mom agreed with him. I told them I couldn't terminate the pregnancy. It wasn't something I could do. My dad told me I had until the next morning to reconsider, or I needed to pack my things and leave. That night, I called Nathan, crying. His response was that he and his parents would come get me the next day. I packed everything I could into 2 suitcases and a backpack. When I came downstairs the next day, my parents and Eric were at the breakfast table. Nobody spoke to me or even looked at me. I told them I was going to have the baby and Nathan was coming for me. My dad just pointed at the door. Nathan and his parents arrived about an hour later. As I put my things in their car, I looked back at the house, hoping someone would come out to say goodbye or at least acknowledge me. Nobody did. The door remained closed. The first few months were incredibly difficult. I had to drop out of college because dealing with classes, morning sickness, and the emotional trauma of being rejected by my family was too much. Nathan's parents let us stay with them until we could get on our feet. They turned their office into a bedroom for us and helped us get ready for the baby. Nathan continued his studies while working part-time, and I found a job that was flexible with my pregnancy. Nathan's mom, Diane, took me maternity clothes shopping and went with me to doctor's appointments when Nathan couldn't. His dad, Robert, built a crib for the baby and refinished an old rocking chair he found at a garage sale. I was so grateful for their support, but every time Diane helped me with something, I would think about how it should have been my own mom there. My mom's sisters, my aunts Jenny and Kate, reached out after they heard what happened. They didn't agree with my parents' decision, but they couldn't convince them to change their minds. They sent baby clothes and offered emotional support with calls and occasional visits. Some of my cousins also kept in touch by messaging me on social media and regularly asking how I was doing. Despite all that support, my parents' absence was a constant ache. I sent them a Christmas card with a photo of me and my growing baby bump. There was no response. I sent them an invitation to our small wedding ceremony when I was 6 months pregnant. The invitation came back marked "Return to Sender." I sent birth announcements when Lily was born. Nothing. Nathan and I got married at the courthouse with his parents as witnesses when I was 6 months pregnant. It wasn't the wedding I dreamed of as a little girl, but it was perfect in its own way. By then, Nathan had gotten a better job at his uncle's construction company, with good benefits and a steady paycheck. Lily was born when I was still 19. When they first placed Lily on my chest, I cried for so many reasons: joy at meeting my daughter, relief that labor was over, and a deep sadness that my parents chose to miss that moment. After Lily was born, Nathan and I moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment. It wasn't fancy, but it was our first real home as a family. Nathan kept working and going to school part-time. With Diane's help watching Lily, I was also able to go back to college part-time. For the first 3 years of Lily's life, I stopped trying with my parents. If they didn't want to be part of our lives, I wasn't going to force them. Nathan graduated with his business degree when Lily was 4. He got a promotion at work, and we were able to buy a little house in a neighborhood with good schools. I finished my degree in education the next year and got a job as a third-grade teacher at a school near our home. Life got a lot better. Lily grew up to be a bright, curious child who loved books as much as I did. She adored Nathan's parents, who spoiled her with love and attention. We spent holidays with Nathan's family, and my aunts and cousins visited when they could. We were happy until last week. Now I'm 4 months pregnant with our second child. We hadn't told many people yet, but I mentioned it to my cousin during a phone call. Apparently my cousin told her mom, who told my mom, because last Saturday, while Nathan was mowing the lawn and Lily was playing in the backyard, my parents showed up at our front door. I barely recognized them. For one thing, my dad had lost weight and had a lot more gray hair than before. My mom also looked older, with lines around her eyes that weren't there before. My mom was holding a gift bag. She couldn't speak. After 6 years of complete silence, they were suddenly on my doorstep. Nathan must have seen them from the yard because he came inside quickly, still in his grass-stained clothes, and stood beside me. My mom started crying, and my dad asked if they could come in. I was shaking so badly that Nathan had to guide me to the couch. They sat across from us, and my dad did most of the talking. He said they had made a terrible mistake, that they were scared when I got pregnant, worried it would ruin my life. They thought Nathan would leave me and I'd end up a single mom with no education and no way to support myself. My mom nodded, adding that they thought being strict would force me to make the right decision. They said they realized their mistake years ago, but pride kept them from reaching out. Hearing about the second pregnancy made them see they couldn't stay away any longer. My mom handed me the gift bag. Inside was a hand-knitted blanket and a teddy bear. She said she had been knitting blankets for years, imagining giving them to grandchildren she'd never met. She asked if they could meet Lily and be a part of our lives again. I couldn't answer. 6 years of pain and abandonment don't disappear with an apology. Now they wanted to just come back as if nothing had happened. Nathan told them we needed time to think about it. They reluctantly left their phone number and address. They had moved to a smaller house across town and said they would wait for my call. Before they left, my mom asked if she could hug me. I let her, but I didn't feel anything when she put her arms around me. She felt like a stranger. After they left, Nathan held me while I cried. Lily, confused by everything, asked who those people were. We told her they were old friends because we weren't ready to explain the truth to her. I've spent the last week in a kind of fog. Nathan says he'll support whatever decision I make, but he admits he's angry at them for how they treated me. His parents are worried that letting them back in will only bring more pain. My aunts think I should forgive them and give them another chance. I don't know what to do. I feel bad for hesitating. Should I forgive them and let them back into our lives, or should I protect my family from the people who already abandoned me once? Update 1. After a lot of thought and many conversations with Nathan, I decided to meet my parents again, but with clear boundaries. I called them, and we agreed to meet at a coffee shop near our house. I specifically asked them not to bring gifts and made it clear it would just be a conversation between adults. Nathan offered to come with me, but I felt like I needed to do it alone. My parents got to the coffee shop before I did. They had chosen a table in a quiet corner, away from everyone else. My mom started to get up to hug me when I approached, but I motioned for her to sit down. I didn't want physical affection to cloud my judgment. The first 15 minutes were awkward. They asked about Lily, about my pregnancy, about my job. I answered briefly but didn't offer much information. Then I told them what I had decided. If they wanted to be part of our lives, we needed to establish a relationship between us as adults first. No meeting Lily for now, no invitations to the new baby's shower, no jumping into a grandparent role until I knew I could trust them again. That's when I saw the face I recognized from my father again, that disapproving look I grew up with. He said they had already apologized and that should be enough, that they were Lily's grandparents and had a right to see her. My mom reached out to take my hand, saying they had already missed too much of Lily's life. I pulled my hand away and reminded them that they were the ones who chose to miss those years, that they lost their rights as grandparents the day they kicked me out. I suggested we start with monthly dinners, just us adults, and see how things went from there. My dad stood up so abruptly, the chair scraped against the floor. Several people turned to look at us. He said he wasn't going to beg to see his own grandchild. My mom tried to calm him down, but he was too worked up. Since I stayed calm and didn't change my stance, they left. My mom looked back once with tears in her eyes, but she followed my dad out of the coffee shop. Their reaction told me everything I needed to know. They hadn't changed. They were still expecting immediate obedience to their wishes, and anything different was unacceptable to them. When I got home, Nathan was waiting anxiously. Lily was at his parents' house that afternoon, so we had privacy to talk. I thought that would be the end of it, but 3 days later, my brother Eric showed up at our door. Eric and I hadn't spoken since the day I left my parents' house. He was always the golden child, obeyed without question, and adopted their opinions as his own, which was why he was okay with them kicking me out too. Nathan was at work and Lily was at school. Eric walked into the house without me being able to stop him. He sat down on the couch without being asked and looked around our home with obvious disdain, even though we had worked hard to make it nice within our means. Eric said he had come to talk some sense into me, that our parents were devastated after the coffee shop meeting, and that this whole thing about setting boundaries with our parents was over. He said they made just one mistake years ago and reminded me of everything they had done for me when I was a child. The house, clothes, and education, conveniently forgetting they took it all away. When I pointed out that they abandoned me when I was barely an adult and pregnant, he had the nerve to say that I had abandoned them first by getting pregnant and choosing that guy over my family. I told him that guy had a name. He was my husband and the father of my daughter. Eric said Nathan had trapped me and that our parents only wanted to save me from ruining my life. That's when it hit me. Eric didn't just share my parents' opinions, he had probably shaped them. He had always disliked Nathan, even before I got pregnant. The few times they met, Eric was polite, but cold. Now I wondered how much influence he'd had on my parents' reaction. I told him to leave. He refused, saying he wouldn't leave until I agreed to bring Lily to see our parents that weekend. When I refused again, he grabbed my wrist and told me I was being childish. His grip was so tight it hurt. I pulled away and told him if he didn't leave immediately, I would call the police. After a tense moment, he left, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. I called Nathan right away. He wanted to leave work and come home, but I assured him I was okay. I also called his mom, who came over to stay with me until Nathan got back and brought dinner with her. That night, after getting Lily to bed, Nathan and I had a long talk. We decided to be proactive instead of just reacting. I sent my parents a message making it clear that, after Eric's behavior, there was no chance of reconciliation. My mom replied almost immediately, defending Eric. She said he didn't mean any harm. She insisted again on having a meeting with Lily present, saying that would fix things for everyone. I replied that I was going to file a police report against Eric, and that would be my fix for everyone. I knew the police wouldn't do much, but filing a report would at least document his behavior. The next day, flowers arrived at my work with a card from my parents apologizing for Eric's behavior. The card also included a note saying they had bought tickets to Lily's school play next month, information they must have gotten through my cousin or one of my aunts. I returned the flowers to the florist with a note refusing delivery. After leaving work, I went straight to file the report against Eric. That night, I called my Aunt Kate to express my disappointment about her sharing information about Lily's activities with my parents. She admitted she had been in contact with them regularly over the years and thought she was helping by telling them about the play. I told her I needed her to respect my decisions about my parents' involvement in our lives. She agreed, although I'm not entirely convinced she meant it. Maybe I need to cut off more people, at least until all this settles down. Update 2. I had hoped my last update would be the end of this situation, but apparently my parents and brother confuse a no with a yes. The past month has been a series of increasingly aggressive attempts to force their way into our lives. A week after Eric's unwanted visit, packages started arriving for Lily. Dolls, books, art supplies, all addressed to her with cards signed Grandma and Grandpa. I donated everything to charity. Then came the emails with old family photos attached, text messages with remember when stories, and voicemails full of guilt-tripping and emotional manipulation. I had to block every number they used. The last straw happened 2 weeks ago. I was picking Lily up from school when I saw my mom in the parking lot, watching from her car. I reported it immediately to the school office, and they assured me they wouldn't release Lily to anyone but Nathan or me. I didn't make contact with her. I just put Lily in the car, and we left. That night, I called my parents and told them flat out that their behavior was bordering on harassment. My dad dismissed my concerns, saying they just wanted to see their grandchild. Finally, I went to the police and reported the situation. At least this time they sent someone to the school to verify what happened, and someone there confirmed they saw my mother in the parking lot. Last weekend was Lily's school play. Remember how I mentioned they had somehow gotten tickets? Nathan and I got there early to talk to Lily's teacher and the principal. We explained the situation and asked that they not be allowed in. The school was very understanding and assigned a staff member to monitor the entrance. My parents arrived just as we expected. When they were politely denied entry, they made a scene. My dad demanded to be let in, saying he had tickets. The principal had to threaten to call security before they finally left. Luckily, Lily was backstage and didn't know about the commotion, but other parents witnessed it. I felt embarrassed. The next day, Eric showed up at Nathan's workplace. His co-workers, who knew our situation, alerted him before Eric could find him. Nathan met him in the lobby, where Eric handed him an envelope. Inside was a check for a significant amount of money, supposedly a gift for Lily's education. There was also a note that said, "My parents will drop their campaign to see Lily if you agree to attend family therapy sessions with them." Nathan tore up the check and the note right in front of Eric and told him to leave. That night, we got a group message from my mom addressed to the whole extended family: aunts, uncles, cousins, even Nathan's parents. It contained a long, dramatic, twisted version of events, painting Nathan and me as cruel for keeping Lily away from her loving grandparents. It claimed we were denying Lily her heritage and family connections because of a misunderstanding that happened years ago. The message ended with a plea for family members to help reason with us. Most people didn't respond. My Aunt Jenny called me privately to apologize for my mom's behavior. She said she had tried to talk my parents out of their increasingly desperate tactics, but they wouldn't listen. Nathan's parents immediately blocked my parents' numbers and reaffirmed their unconditional support. 2 days later, I was grocery shopping when I ran into my mom's best friend from church. She came up to me with sympathy, telling me she had heard about my mental health issues. I was confused until she explained that my mom had told the whole church group that I was suffering from postpartum depression and pregnancy-related anxiety, which was making me paranoid and pushing my family away. That same night, Nathan and I consulted with a lawyer. He told us that while my parents' behavior was concerning, it didn't quite reach the level where a restraining order would be granted yet. However, he helped us draft a cease and desist letter that formally documented our request for no contact. We sent the letter by certified mail to make sure they received it. The letter clearly stated that any further contact with us, Lily, Nathan's workplace, or Lily's school would result in legal action. We also specified that they shouldn't discuss us with family members or acquaintances. 3 blessed days of silence followed. Then, yesterday, we received a response from a lawyer they had hired. The letter stated that while they would respect our wishes for now, they were exploring their legal rights as grandparents and believed they had grounds to seek court-ordered visitation based on an established relationship with Lily prior to the estrangement. This was a total lie. They had never met Lily, not even once, in her 6 years of life. Nathan immediately called our lawyer, who assured us that, in our state, grandparent rights cases are very difficult to win. He recommended gathering evidence of their absence from Lily's life, returned birth announcements, lack of response to photos and updates over the years, and any other documentation showing they chose not to be involved until now. We spent the afternoon going through emails, photo albums, and social media posts, creating a timeline of Lily's life and their complete absence from it. Our lawyer is confident we have nothing to fear legally, but the emotional toll is brutal. I'm 5 months pregnant now, and my doctor expressed concern about my blood pressure. Nathan is also worried and has suggested we consider moving to another neighborhood or even another city to avoid these accidental encounters. For now, we're documenting everything and focusing on keeping our daily routine as normal as possible for Lily's sake. She knows something is wrong but doesn't understand what. She asked why we left her place so quickly and why Daddy seemed angry when he was on the phone. We've explained some things to her, but only in ways she can understand. Nathan's parents have been amazing through all of this, taking Lily for sleepovers when we have lawyer meetings and giving her a sense of normalcy. This situation has made me even more grateful for their constant support over the years. Update 3. This will be my last update on this situation. A lot has happened in the past 3 months, and I'm writing this from our new home in another city, about 125 miles from where we used to live. After my last update, things escalated even further. Despite the cease and desist letter and our lawyer's response to their legal threats, my parents continued their campaign to force their way into our lives. They seemed to take our legal response as a challenge, not a warning. When Lily's teacher called me at work, alarmed that someone claiming to be her grandmother had tried to pick her up from school, things got really bad. My mom showed the office staff old pictures of me as a child, claiming they proved her relationship. Thankfully, the school followed protocol and called me right away. When confronted, my mom made a scene again, and the school had to call security. That same night, Eric showed up at our house again. This time, Nathan was home. Nathan went outside to talk to him and stood between us. Eric was yelling about the legal letter, and when Nathan asked him to leave, Eric threw a punch. Nathan defended himself, and the situation quickly turned into a physical fight. Lily came out of her room and could hear that something was going on. I told her to stay in her room while I called 911. By the time the police arrived, Nathan had managed to get Eric outside, but they both had minor injuries. We filed a police report and were finally able to get an emergency restraining order against Eric. The responding officer suggested we also apply for orders against my parents. I told him that's what we had been trying to do for a while, but even though our lawyer filed for an order, it hadn't been granted. In the end, the lawyer was right, but at least we were able to get a temporary order against Eric for assault, and we were granted one against my parents by association. Around that time, Nathan's company offered him a transfer to their office in a city about 2 hours away. We hadn't considered moving that far, but with everything that had happened, it suddenly seemed like our best option. The restraining orders would help in the short term, but living in the same city was going to keep having consequences. We made the decision to move quickly and quietly. Nathan accepted the transfer, and we found a rental house in the new city and put our old one up for rent. We didn't tell anyone outside of Nathan's parents. Within 3 weeks, we packed our essential belongings and left. Nathan's parents helped us with all the logistics and kept the secret. My Aunt Jenny, whom I trust completely, agreed to handle the rental of our house through her husband's real estate business. We only left our new address with her, the post office, and essential services. We enrolled Lily in a new school, and I found a new OBGYN for the rest of my pregnancy. The move was difficult for Lily at first, but she's already made new friends in the neighborhood and is enjoying her new school. 2 weeks after we moved, the hearing for the permanent restraining orders was held. We traveled back, leaving Lily with Nathan's parents. The orders prohibit them from contacting us by any means or coming within 150 meters, about 500 feet, of any of us for 1 year, after which we can request a renewal if necessary. Since the move and the orders, we haven't had contact with my parents or Eric. Our new house is smaller than the last one, but we feel safe, which is what matters. Nathan's commute is shorter, and I found a part-time teaching position at a nearby school that I'll start after my maternity leave. Our baby, yes, it's a boy, is due in 6 weeks, and despite the chaos of the move, this pregnancy has been much more peaceful. Nathan's parents visit us regularly, making the drive every couple of weekends. They've helped us set up the baby's room and with Lily. My Aunt Jenny and 2 cousins have also come to visit, bringing housewarming gifts and good energy to our new home. I wish things hadn't gotten to this point. It was incredibly difficult getting a restraining order against my family, and even then, we weren't sure it would have consequences for my parents, which is why moving was the best decision. It gives us a series of protective barriers as long as they don't find out where we live. They don't even know we live a couple of hours away, and we hope to keep it that way. Update 4. My parents did something crazy, really crazy, and got arrested. But my brother tried to fix it and ended up joining them. Yeah, that summary pretty much covers what we've been through these past few months with my dad, but let me start from the beginning with the spark that set off this bomb. My Aunt Jenny was the only one I trusted, who hadn't told my parents anything, and who was allowed to visit because she knew our new home. She was planning to come over one Saturday afternoon and had sent us her location so we'd know she was getting close. When we saw on my phone that she was just a few blocks away, we went outside with Lily to wait for her, since it was a beautiful day. What we didn't know was that she had been followed by my parents. And not only that, it seems my parents or Eric had been following her for weeks because their cars show up on security cameras from previous days. From there, everything was a mess. We were greeting my aunt when my parents parked further down the street and got out of their car. That's when the panic set in. I rushed inside the house with Lily while my parents were yelling her name and started dialing 911. Meanwhile, my aunt and Nathan confronted them and told them to leave. My dad was furious and demanded that Nathan and Jenny move aside, but his sister told him to leave before the police got there. My dad pushed my aunt and she hit her head against one of the steps leading up to the front door. Nathan had to hit my dad to stop him. Then, while Nathan was checking on my Aunt Jenny, my mom was comforting my dad, who was lying on the front lawn. Eventually, the police arrived, and they had to call 2 ambulances, one for my aunt and one for my dad. But Nathan made sure Jenny was attended to first, because she was more seriously hurt and clearly needed urgent medical attention. Nathan had to go down to the police station with my mom to give statements, but he was released within a few hours after it became clear my parents were violating a restraining order and had assaulted Jenny. I went to the hospital with my aunt to stay with her until Nathan's parents arrived and took Lily back home because I couldn't leave her alone, and the hospital wasn't a good place for her. Luckily, Jenny was discharged the next day. She was just kept for observation as a precaution. My dad was also treated, but once he was discharged, the police arrested him for assault and violating the restraining order. Then came the trials. My dad was found guilty and sentenced to 3 years in prison for assault, in addition to losing his job. My mom received 1 year of probation for being an accessory and also for violating the order. When they searched my parents' car, they found a golf club in the trunk. To this day, it's not clear if it was a coincidence or if they planned to use it, but nobody just happens to have a single golf club in their car. A few weeks after my parents' arrest, my brother decided to visit us too, since by then, everyone knew where we lived. The police had informed us we could defend ourselves if anyone showed up again. So when he came to intimidate us into dropping the charges, Nathan hit him hard. We also called the police. This time, all we had to do was explain the situation on the spot for them to take him away. It's worth noting that his argument for us dropping the charges started by throwing rocks at our windows. As a result, he also received 1 year in prison, joining my dad. As for Jenny, she's doing okay. Getting hit on the head wasn't fun, but there were no serious long-term consequences. Now Eric is being sued after we initiated legal action. My aunt felt guilty about what happened and wanted to compensate us somehow, but we told her it wasn't her fault, although she should definitely sue my dad for everything she could. We sued Eric because we knew that before he lost his job, he had a good income and could pay for the broken windows, plus the stress and risk he exposed us to with his behavior. For now, those lawsuits will take some time, but I plan to give an update when there's progress. Update 5. I have the conclusion of the lawsuits, and I guess the conclusion of my story too. My dad and brother are still in prison, and we doubt they'll dare to pull another stunt when they get out. The lawsuit against Eric was ruled in our favor, and the judge ordered his funds garnished to cover the cost of the broken windows and compensation for damages. In total, it came out to over $22,000. On the other hand, my Aunt Jenny's lawsuit was the toughest. Although it wasn't considered attempted murder civilly, the criminal case did recognize the potential risk of what my dad did. The premeditation of bringing the golf club and the excessive violence from the start warranted a much higher compensation. They had to sell their house to pay the $150,000 the judge awarded Jenny. After that, my mom left town, moving even further away from where we used to live, to be closer to Eric and my dad. They aren't in the same prison, but she lives close to my dad's prison, and a relatively short drive from my brother's. Although in my brother's case, he only has a few weeks left to serve his sentence. All of this has been too much. But I'm glad it's finally ending. I don't know what the future holds, but we sincerely hope this is the end of it. We don't plan on moving again because it doesn't seem like that helped. If anything, it only made things worse. And with the pandemic situation now, I think it's the worst time to do it. If my parents have learned anything from all this, this will be my last time updating. And if not, they'll hear more from me.